You're listening to Oh My Health, There Is Hope podcast.
When your heart is aching and your world is shaking, don't give up. No, no, don't give up.
Hello and welcome to Oh My Health, There Is Hope, the podcast. I'm your host, Jana Short, and today we're here with a very special guest, Barbara Hannelore. Barbara is an author, speaker, and self-care mentor with a focus on using the rhythms of nature as a model for women's well-being. She is the author of the award-winning book, The Moon and You, A Woman's Guide to an Easier Monthly Cycle, and the Mother's Moon Kit, helping mothers prepare for their daughters' coming of age. Barbara is trained in expressive arts, wellness coaching, and has studied many holistic practices and sacred traditions, sorry guys, throughout her life. She has been sharing self-care insights for 25 years through Women's Way, moon cycles, and is also the creator of self-care solutions. You are one busy lady, Barbara.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here, because I will tell you, I feel like even though we have grown so much in the last few decades, people still don't want to talk about this topic or educate themselves on it because they find, for some reason, shame and us just being women, right? Or embarrassment.
Yes.
And I still can remember like my mom saying, shh, don't tell anyone, like don't say anything.
Oh, yes.
Right. So I'm so glad that you're here.
Thank you. I'm so glad I'm here too. You are right that it can be a difficult topic to approach and be comfortable with. And I've struggled with how to present this the whole time I've been doing it for the last 30 years, but it's so important and so valuable, as you said.
Well, I am going to ask you to do something I ask all of our guests to do, and that is share a story of hope. So if you would love to share your story of hope, I would love to give you the platform to do that.
Oh, thank you. Well, honestly, nature is the story of hope in the work that I do. It's just the return to nature, the simplicity of nature, and the way it offers us this model of balance. And when I can present that to women and say, oh, look, here you are, this is within you, and you can just turn toward nature and so many things in your life will be resolved. And I grew up close to nature. I crawled around under bushes and in tree houses. And then even as a young adult, for many years, I was just so fortunate. I lived close to nature. My friends and I grew organic food, and we observed the seasons. You know, we would celebrate the solstice and equinox. And so I've always carried that with me. And then eventually I met Tamara Slayton, who many women who are in my field, remember her very fondly. And she had this whole program that went all the way from coming of age through women's cycles, through menopause. And I was just enchanted because I had already started to realize there was a much deeper significance to women's cycles than what modern culture leaves us with. And so through Tamara and other women, I started to realize more of the significance of the connection between women's cycles and the moon. And of course, our monthly cycle and the moon are similar in length of the moon's rhythm, but there's also this energetic rhythm. And that's the key, because the moon has these 4 distinct phases each month. And we energetically have phases as well. And these are prompted by our hormones. So our hormones will put us into this really different state of focus or energy level during the month. And the modern culture tells us to just fight that as hard as we can, just stay the same all the time. And that's not how nature works. That's not how rhythm works. And so once I started realizing the value of this, I was just, oh my word, it certainly has made a difference to me. And this will make such a difference to women. And in a nutshell, when I tell women, part of your month is for you. Part of your month is designed for you to turn toward yourself and catch up with yourself. And women just go, oh, because, that spark had just never been suggested to them before. And just starting there, everything can start to change.
I love it. And people don't realize the power of the moon. I totally do. And I have since I was young, but like the moon can literally control the tides, right? Like it's crazy. So, and you hear that people will say women in the same household will sync together, and
Mhm.
really that we're syncing on the cycle of the moon, and we're together, we do start syncing cycles together. I would love to know more about exactly how you train women and educate them and help them through this process, because it does look like you step in at every phase of our womanhood.
I know. I've kind of gone round and round offering these things over the years, and I finally got my menopause work up uh, so that it's being offered too, which is great. Well, I wrote my book, which was a big help, and here it is for those who are watching, The Moon and You. And I thought this was going to be a very simple book at first, and of course, it turned into something more comprehensive. And the chapters of the book, the first chapter of this book is what is a cycle? Because again, that's what I return to, is the value of cycle, for us to realize that we have these phases every month and to learn to work with them instead of against them. So, for example, I have a couple of personal calendars at the end of chapter 2 here that women can print out, and you start to anticipate your needs every month, so that you well know that you're not going to feel the same 2 weeks from now that you feel now. And after your menstrual period is over, you're going to have this growing energy toward ovulation, similar to the light that grows toward the full moon. And even though you're not required to have that, you're not required to menstruate along with the moon's rhythm, but it's a similar energetic rhythm within you. So you've got this growing energy, and then equal in length is the waning energy, the waning light. And that's the part that we struggle with and don't know what to do with, that premenstrual and menstrual time. And that's the time of completion, to where we need to catch up with ourselves, notice anything that needs to be adjusted, and also take time alone. That's a huge need that women don't tend to recognize. And so I wrote the book, and was able to have classes based on the book after that. I had kind of had the same classes before, but I've developed 15 weeks of classes based on the book. And as I said, the calendars allow women to anticipate their needs. Like if they're in that growing light, just after their menstrual time, and they're moving toward ovulation, that's like the springtime, that's new energy and starting things, and kind of like the young person. And so then if you look ahead 2 or 3 weeks, you're going to be in the waning time, the premenstrual time. And most women know that they're not going to feel the same. So we can stop trying to feel the same. And what we do is I encourage women to print out one of these blank calendars and just draw a nice red line through about, let's say, 5 days when you anticipate your next menstrual time, and a couple of premenstrual days, couple of menstrual days right around that time. And then what you do is you don't schedule any optional activities during those days. You don't schedule doctor's appointments. You don't even schedule get-togethers with friends, because that time is for you. It's a gift for you. And you even step back as much as possible during those days with, you don't do anything optional. You just go home and take a bath. Do as much gifting to yourself of time as you can. And, we're so afraid of falling behind, because modern calendars relate to nothing in nature. They're just this full-on charge ahead with all these things to try to keep up with. It's exhausting just to think about. And nature's rhythm has nature's calendar has rhythm built in, and time for rest. And so when we start honoring that, everything starts to change. And so if we step back during certain days, we're going to catch up. Once women start doing this, they realize, oh yeah, for one thing, I wasn't exhausted and resentful after my menstrual time, because I had taken time for myself. It was very fulfilling. And for another thing, I had the energy afterwards to catch up with all the things I didn't do.
I love it. Let's just go through the phases of our cycles. So
Yeah.
the reason I'm going to ask you this is because I feel like the conversations as mothers that we now have with our daughters needs to be more.
Yeah.
Like when I grew up, no one told me anything. I literally thought I was going to die. I thought something was wrong, and I was afraid to tell my mom because I didn't want to tell her I was dying. I had no clue that this was coming, how to deal with it. And then I was embarrassed and ashamed.
Yes.
Because it was like this big secret. And it's something beautiful. It's been going on since the beginning of time. And why haven't we evolved yet around that?
I honestly do think that former cultures, if you look back far enough in human history, you will find this fascinating history where all the words around menstruation were positive, had positive meanings of calendar, timekeeping, and also of power, because red is power. It's always meant power. And it's just been distorted over the years through time. And I so agree with you about what you're saying, that, first of all, the moms, so many moms who are very comfortable with their daughters and feel like they can talk about everything. And yet this conversation can still be difficult. And I think it's because, you want it to be comfortable. And so you keep putting it off. And I think that lack of comfort partly comes, as you say, from women who didn't have any, when they look back in their own history, there's nothing to draw from to show you how to do this. And you had a very uncomfortable beginning yourself. Some people have called it the wrongs of passage rather than the rites of passage for girls in modern culture, because there's this silence, and it's a message in itself. It says, this is not important. Furthermore, it's embarrassing, and here's how to hide it. That's kind of the message we get. How disempowering is that? And sets us up to struggle against our own body's rhythm, and really sets us up for poor health. So I really appreciate that question. So the way I address coming of age with girls is through the mothers. I have a mother's moon kit to prepare for your daughter's coming of age. And it's really just as much for the mom as it is for the girl, because it asks the mom to reconsider her own coming of age with just lots of love and support, and also reconsider how her own monthly cycle is. And I just suggest, there's things you can do to help yourself have an easier time, because, the more comfortable the mom is, the better she's going to be able to address this with her daughter.
I love having those open conversations. There literally is still places on this beautiful planet that when women have their cycles are considered dirty, and
Yes.
they are sent away from their family and
Mhm.
put in like these huts for their cycle time. Like, how traumatic is that? Because they think that it's evil. There's something bad attached to that. And it's the stigma. Like, here we are we're living in 2022, and this literally still goes on.
Yes, it's very sad. I do believe that the original concept of the menstrual lodge was empowering for women. I think it was begun by women. I think women can really benefit from taking themselves away, just stepping back from all the endless, as we said, daily responsibilities, and just catching up with ourselves. And again, I think that's just been distorted over time. And one of the, there's all these taboos around menstruation, like, well, if you're menstruating, you'd better not touch that cow or you'll turn the milk sour. And that's power. It's an acknowledgement of power. It's just that it's been distorted.
So I love that we talked about that. So let's move into another phase now. By the way, if you're a mom of a daughter, start having those conversations, because if she's afraid to have that conversation with you and ever something goes wrong, she's not going to have the power, the strength to go see a doctor, to open up and say something doesn't feel right.
Yes.
So definitely start getting her very comfortable and proud. Like, it's a gift to us. That's how I literally always saw it. It was a gift to me.
And you know what, Jana, can I say one more thing about that
please.
before we move on? Because I was going to say also that in my Mother's Moon Kit, which is it's a downloadable resource, it's articles and resources for moms. And I encourage you to start the conversation by talking with your girl about the moon, because there it is. And as you said, we're going to talk about the phases. It's such an easy way into the conversation, and to assure her that these rhythms are significant and have meaning. And also for girls who've had a terrible impression of menstruation and don't want to talk about it. My friend's daughter was that way, and we decided to meet with her once a month for tea and cookies. And we decorated our calendars. We talked about it. We talked about the moon. And honestly, after one meeting, she felt so much better. And this story and others are in the Mother's Moon Kit, where moms can get ideas.
So now we're moving into the phase of childbearing years, right?
Yes.
We're in childbearing years. We should be super grateful that we have the cycle, because if our cycle means we're in childbearing years. So I love that. So how are the moon? Is it any different when you're in those cycle bearing years? our childbearing years in that age bracket. So I know for me, it was much easier when I was younger to have a cycle. And then as I hit those mid 20s to late 30s, it was like hell.
Oh
It really
man.
was very challenging.
Yes. And, you know, there are lots of hormonal experts out there who can address this. And I do have a lot of resources for that because that's not my area where I really thrive. But I just know that turning toward your body with interest, your body craves your attention, starting to fill out personal calendars where you notice things during the month, like here's day one of my cycle, and this is where the moon is, and this is how I feel energetically today. And throughout the month, you can just observe and maybe mark this calendar with little symbols and just start taking an interest. A lot of women's cycles will respond to that. And I've had, you know, many women tell me that just by reading my book, their cycles got better. And and so the phases again are the 4 phases of the moon, which we know are similar to the 4 seasons of the year. We can overlay any cycle onto that model and see the similarity. So the menstrual time would have the 2 phases of the growing light from the menstrual time up to the ovulation, which we just correlate with full moon. And then it would have the waning phases as the moonlight wanes. Those are phases 3 and 4, which correlate with the premenstrual time. And the premenstrual time is such an important time for women because it's the time of the ending. So it's the time of review and recalibration. It's the time when we are designed to actually notice what's not working and make changes. And so difficult feelings can come up, maybe things we've been mad about all month or all year. The anger is going to come up now. And there's a kernel of truth there. It doesn't mean that you feel great about spouting anger at people, but there's a kernel of truth there. So just when you have your alone time, you can just consider what's the truth here and do something different. Let the wild woman out, you know, just do some wild dancing or drawing or just lying on the ground doing nothing. Just let yourself be different during those premenstrual days instead of trying to be the same all the time.
So do you still have that? Do you still connect with the moon in cycles if you're past menopause?
What I think is that, you know, there is still some estrogen being produced by the body, but I think menopause is such a valuable time for women to actually start following the moon itself, because then your own cycle isn't maybe at another phase than the moon. You've just got the moon as kind of your model of rhythm. And if you want that rhythm, and I mean, women, first of all, may feel, I sense the moon a lot more than some other people do. And so it helps to consciously notice where the moon is and to notice that maybe as the moon goes really dark, you might feel kind of less focused, like maybe you can't quite sense where things are going quite as easily, which of course that's a quality of the dark, right? So you just have to kind of learn to sit with that for a few days. And so you may sense that, and it helps to know that. Or if women just want to build that kind of rhythm into their life where they can look forward to taking some downtime each month as a rhythm of nature, they can start to observe the moon in menopause.
I can tell you that literally, especially now my older ages, because I just turned 60, is I am called by the moon, literally. And Tuesday night, I woke up from a dead sleep at like 4 a.m. and I walked to get a drink of water. And as I'm standing at the sink, there's that moon, like it was in all of its glory. Like, we're not going to have that again for a year. In the midst of that,
the eclipse.
Yes. And like, I woke up, it woke me up right at that moment. And
That's
I'm like, are you
amazing.
kidding? I never wake up. I sleep sound until the minute I'm
Wow.
supposed to wake up. And yet I'm standing at the sink drinking, and there it is, like right at my window saying, hello, you almost missed this.
That's amazing. My sleep was definitely disrupted. We couldn't see it where we were because we were a little sucked in by overcast, but that's really great that you were awakened and you got to see it.
I did. It was amazing. And
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's like it rang my doorbell and said, hey, you're going to miss this. Get up.
That's so cool. You could see it right out your window too. That's great.
Tell us a little bit about your courses.
Well, let's see. I developed one course. It's a book club. The book has 5 chapters. And so with the book club, we go through the 5 chapters of the book week by week. The chapters are what is a cycle, and then how to care for our inner life, and how to anticipate our needs. As I said, how to get time alone, how to how to sort of unravel some of the shame that we have around menstruation. The third chapter is about our bodies, our diet and herbal teas and different ways we can support ourselves, foot baths, and just all the yummy things we can do for ourselves. And the fourth chapter is about culture. I couldn't leave that out. And it's about culture and the beliefs of our cultures and how they affect us. And just like you were saying, we have this shame. Well, that's not natural. The shame has been imposed on us by the culture. And so we talk about different cultural attitudes that are more positive. And again, those questions we can ask ourselves, well, if I feel shame, like what if I get blood on my clothing? Why is that so mortifying? Why isn't it like a stubbed toe?
If I got a bloody nose, it wouldn't.
Yeah.
I would be ashamed. I got a bloody nose.
And so we can ask ourselves those little activities at the end of each chapter. And then the fifth chapter is about coming of age. And again, we talk about your daughter, but we more talk about you. Like, what was your own coming of age like? How can you go back and readdress that and support yourself? And so we spend 5 weeks going through these chapters. And then I created 2 more classes. So the first one, we go through the first 4 chapters of the book again, but in more depth, where we do womb meditations and drawing and all these different things to really engage with these ideas. And then the third 5-week class is all about the last chapter of the book about your own coming of age. And we actually do a ceremony for ourselves. We welcome ourselves into womanhood. We do a ceremony for ourselves. It's just so precious. I had a woman who was past menopause take that class, and we do something similar in menopause, by the way, with the menopause class, where we celebrate ourselves, but she was back reviewing her life and celebrating her own coming of age. And she was just so profoundly touched by that, about how surprised she was that in her own life review, she got kind of a more positive perspective about certain things. That was really nice.
I love it. So this is literally something you could be taking with your daughters.
Yeah. Yes.
And what age group do you think is best?
Well, I don't see, it might be a lot for girls under 12. Even though the conversation should begin with girls under 12.
Although girls are having their cycles now at the age of 12 because of all the hormones in their food.
Yes.
Like, I think I was 15 when I first had my first cycle, but I know that they're having their cycles so young now.
Yeah, I started at 11.
You did?
15
Wow.
years ago, which is, I don't know why. But yeah, I would say take it with your teenage daughter. With a younger girl, read through the book and see what you think, because you might want to take it with her if she's just really into that kind of thing, or you might want to go through the book with her on your own. I did have a mom present my book to her daughter, and there's certainly it's fine for girls who are used to reading adult books, as I certainly was at that age.
I know one of the things I'm hoping is that as mothers that we become more comfortable in having those conversations with our children, and maybe not even waiting until they're at the ages where they might start their cycle, but making them very comfortable with us living in our truth, our cycle. So explaining to them, I'm a little cranky today. I started my cycle. So I am following, taking a downtime, a quiet time, and getting them so that they're comfortable and they understand it. You've been talking about it since they were little, and they understand it.
Yeah, that you've got your rhythm like the seasons. And right now you're kind of in your wintertime, you're going to go into your hibernation cave and just step back a little bit. And it's a great time for others to step in and take care of you a little bit. And they watch all the modeling of that.
They really do. Children, like, they emulate you as a parent as they get older. So when they see you comfortable and confident in what you're doing, it just passes right on. But if we hesitate, we're scared, or we're awkward when we're having those important talks, they pick up on that.
I want women to feel like goddesses. Honestly, there was this woman in New York who was doing this work a lot online for a while. And she was saying, during your menstrual time, lie around. And not only that, adorn yourself and then lie around. So she it was so, the way she presented it was so indulgent. Like, menstruation honestly is work. Our bodies are doing work, and it's work that's done on behalf of the whole human race. And we deserve to take a bit of time off, for heaven's sakes, when we're having this this very powerful rhythm move through us. And I encourage women to print out the monthly calendars that I provide, and maybe tape it to a larger piece of paper and decorate the border and put it on your fridge, and so your family can see it. Like most men want to support our menstrual cycles, and they don't really know how, because we were never taught either. So they were certainly never taught it, but they understand the seasons. So if they can understand what season you're in, then they can be a little more supportive. And
Right. Like this is winter season. Maybe I better not bring up that topic until she
yes,
to, right.
yeah,
I can hold off a few days for that conversation.
That's right. The premenstrual and menstrual times are not the greatest for all this logical hashing things out, but it's excellent for other things. It's excellent for deep imagination and creativity and getting in tune with parts of yourself that aren't so easily connected with. Yeah. So I was going to say that I encourage women to print it out, put it on the fridge. And my one client who was doing that, she was just so happy about it and saying how her husband was getting on board. And then I talked to her about a year later, and she was like, "Oh, I'm having a hard time." And I said, "Well, where are your calendars?" And she said, "Oh, they're in my phone." And I said, "Well, why don't you get them out of your phone? Everything doesn't have to be on an app. You need to print out those calendars and decorate them like a goddess, and do a new one every month and put them up on the wall where you can appreciate them." So she felt a lot better after she did that again.
I love that. And I love that you say we should treat ourselves like goddesses, because I feel like that time is given to us to definitely show ourselves some self-care, some self-love,
Yes.
and take that time for ourselves. We're just getting so busy that we're like rushing through, and we're annoyed that we can't
That's
get
right.
through our days because this is just so inconvenient.
That's right. I relate it to trees. Most trees lose their leaves, or at least they have some kind of dormant time in the winter. And it doesn't mean they're lazy or irresponsible or sick. It means that they are following their own inner wisdom, and they know that they're going to go down into their roots, and they're going to be kind of hidden under there in their roots, but they're going to be soaking up all that strength and energy, so they will have the energy for the new season without burning out.
Well, Barbara, you are amazing. And I am so glad we've had this chat, and that I'm hoping that this empowers you as mothers, as women, to embrace the beautiful gift we were given and like understand it a little bit more. Go grab her book. Barbara, can you tell everyone where they can connect with you, where they can get your book or your program?
Yes, my website is Women's Way Moon Cycles. That's plural, cycles, womenswaymooncycles.com. And my book is certainly for sale there. It's also on sale on Amazon, but you do need to type in my name as well as the title in order for my book to come up on Amazon. So I need to let you know that. And my products are there, my Women's Way, my Mother's Moon Kit, and then my book. And then I also have a gift box that I created to go along with my book that has bath salts and all these things in it. That's just a really, really neat gift box, which is also there on my website. And I also love, in addition to the classes, which right now are kind of by interest, like if women can get a small group together, that's just ideal. Because if you get a small group of interested women together, I will do these classes with you anytime. So
well, that's perfect, because I keep seeing book club, a woman's empowerment book club, and this could be your very first, book club gathering. So get some of your friends, and that's an amazing thing to do. I love that.
I love that. So I would love to meet interested women. It's such, once, as I was saying, once women engage with more of this sort of catching up with this self-care and self-esteem, my client Heather, who was one of my original clients, the one who put her picture back up on the fridge, she was just commenting on how, once you understand this, it changes your stature and you don't even need to say a word. That just sends a chill through me, because it's so true. It's so empowering.
I love it. So we're going to add all of Barbara's links to the show notes. You can quickly grab her book, grab her courses, connect with her on social media or on her website. Thank you so much, Barbara. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Jana. It's so nice to talk with you.
Thanks for listening to the Oh My Health, There Is Hope podcast. Make sure to visit Jana's website, bestholisticlife.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Google Play, or listen there, so you'll never miss an episode. While you're at it, if you found value in the show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if you simply tell a friend about the show, that'll help too. Let's change the world together, one health expert at a time. Looking forward to seeing you next time.